Chumash Rashi.
Oh,
So what's wrong with that?
You told me you can't use that Chumash Rashi.
Yeah,
There's no second.
Yeah.
No.
You can't.
You told me the art scroll Chumash
What are
Rashi
you
is not
talking
good.
about?
No, it doesn't have it.
What about the art scroll Chumash with Onkelos?
Oh, it does. You're right. You're right. You're right.
You
Yeah.
told me
Art
the
scroll-
art scroll Chumash
Right there.
Rashi
Right there, is that good?
The Chumash Rashi one is not good.
I just said that. That's what I'm
The
talking
blue
about.
one. The blue
not
one.
the blue one. Not the blue one, the brown one.
No, but
What's
if
wrong?
they're learning the Rashi and the Onkelos, then that's fine. It's only if you're using just the English.
Oh.
Best one is R Yaakov.
If you're just using the English, then it doesn't work.
What they're doing, but they're because they're doing Rashi and they're translating the Rashi. Got it.
Correct. That's fine. That's fine. It's only if you're doing just Rashi. That's
Just
what the
English.
issue is. Just English.
but you-
stuff.
Got it.
Yeah, you're using what's his name's phone?
I'm using Liner's phone. Yes.
All right, so I'm making you the host now.
Where are you, Parrots?
I'm on a romantic anniversary dinner.
With us?
Okay. Reb Rafe, I'm assuming the Greenspan that stuff came from was from you. Oh, let me tell you, my son is in the middle of making hot dogs right now, and I had to come over here and do the share. So I hope I'll get some later. Let me tell you, what a Zara Chodesh treat. Let me thank you. Thank you.
Romanian?
He sent
Thank you.
Romanian,
Garlic
a
hot
huge
dogs?
salami with a couple of things of hot dogs.
Garlic hot dogs?
I don't know.
I think it makes sense only to do that for everybody on the DAF, don't you think?
Ray,
Well,
Mazel
Ray,
Tov,
is it the garlic
Perek.
hot dogs?
Ray,
Right.
we didn't have it tonight, but I left out because I had already prepared for tonight for Rosh Chodesh. Tomorrow for my lunch, I left out enough salami for me for lunch, and two of each kind of sausages for me and my wife for supper tomorrow night.
Development. Okay.
Yeah.
There you
Enjoy.
go.
Pleasure.
For break, was it garlic hot dogs?
Whichever
No.
one that you like, that's what he sent to me in R Yaakov. Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Put in
You should
your
have
orders. I'm coming in like 3-4 weeks.
Aaron, I get standard deliveries for my in-laws. You remember they live there?
I know. We have to give you people in the second city something. Okay.
Reb Rafe, don't forget about the mute man.
Yeah. Parrots, we'll get you. Okay, so let's go. So we was mamish ended. We ended mamish at the top of the bottom of the Amud there. So just to chazer a little, just so that we don't start off on the wrong foot here. So what we're trying to figure out is, so we know that Shabbos is koveya for maaser, meaning maaser, trumas and maaser. You're not mechuyev to take off trumas and maasers until there's a kviyas. Meaning, so kviyas could either be once it's done and it's brought into the house, brought into the yard. Shabbos is koveya. If you sell it, it's koveya. If you announce that you're eating, it's koveya. So the whole Gemara Shiloh that the Gemara has been dealing with, and that'll be on Amud Aleph tonight too, is the food not ready yet? Meaning the fruit is not ripe. Is Shabbos still koveya or Shabbos is not koveya? Right, so that's the Shiloh. So we finish off saying that it's koveya for both, meaning for food that's ripe and food that's not ripe. Shabbos is still koveya. Right. So then the Gemara had ended off by saying that when he says that tomorrow I'm going to eat from this and this, meaning on Erev Shabbos, the Mishna said Erev Shabbos of Shemitah, when you don't have to take off Trumas and Maaser. So it's mashma that on the year that you do take off Trumas and Maaser, a person can't stand up and say that he's taking off Trumas and Maaser for the next day. So we say, well, but it's not kavua, right? The fruit is not ready, it's not ripe. So we say, because since he announced that he's taking from there and there, that's as if he's making it kavua, right? So that's so then the Gemara says if he's announcing it, so then even during the week there should be a problem. So we say no. The chiddush is that tevel is not considered muksa on Shabbos, meaning tevel is when you didn't take out trumas and maaser, and even though somebody's not supposed to take out trumas and maaser on Shabbos, but if he did, the trumas and maaser is going to be, you're allowed to eat the food, and it's not considered muksa. Okay, so that's what we're up to. Lamed Hey Amud Aleph on the top. So the Gemara is continuing on this, and the Gemara is going to ask that just because you said that, oh, tomorrow I'm going to eat from such and such a place, does that makes it that it's done and therefore it's chayav and trumah and maaser? But what happens if you're allowed to put it back? So since you're allowed to put it back, so what's the problem? So Gemara says, meaning it's not considered kavua because you can take the fruit even though it's not ripe, and you said you're going to eat it, but since you can put the leftovers back, so why should that be considered done? So that's Gemara says, right? The leftovers can go back. And we heard that we're going to go into Rabbi Eliezer, who says that if you could put the leftovers back, it's not kavua. The Tanana Noitel says in a matan, somebody who takes olives from an olive press, toivel achas b'melach, he can toivel one by one in salt, meaning because that's arai. All he's doing is, but he's by the vat. He's working by the vat. So he dips one olive in and he dips it into the salt and he eats it. And if he's toivel 10 olives into salt, then he's chayiv because 10 olives is already considered kavua. If the press is a tahor press, right? Meaning it wasn't tamei, so then you'd be chayiv to take out trumah and maaser. If the matan is tamei, it's going to be potter. Because he could put back the leftovers. Let's see, what does this mean? How come the ratio? Meaning, how come if the olive press is tar, you are going to be chayiv to take out trumah and maaser, but if the olive press is tamei, you're not. So Amaravo, Reisha b'matan tar v'gavra tamei. The Reisha is talking about where the press is tahor, but the man is tamei, right? So since the man is tamei, the loy matzi mahadula, he can't put the olives back. Again, you have this olive press, that's tahor. You have a person who's tamei, so he takes out the olives. That's that he could take out without making it tamei. But if he has any leftovers, he now made all the olives tamei. He can't go put it back in. Since he can't put it back in, it's considered kavua, and therefore it's chayiv and trumah and maaser. Seifa, but the seifa is talking about where the press is tamei and the person is also tamei. So he could just take the extra olives and put it back to mati mahadule, right? Again, seifa b'matan tamei v'gavra tamei. The seifa is talking about where the matan is tamei and the person's tamei, the mati mahadule. He could put everything back. So you see that if you could put things back to where they came from, then that makes it not kavua for trumah and maaser, and you'd be part of trumah and maaser. So when it answers masnisa nami memuksa tar begavra tamei, the Mishna is also talking about where the stuff is tar, meaning the fruits and vegetables are tar, but the person is tamei, the loy matzi ma'adalei, so he can't put back the fruits. Right before Shabbos, he's not allowed to put back the fruits because he's going to make everything tamei. Gemara says, I asked the obvious question. He didn't yet take the fruits here, meaning by the olives, the guy took the olives and put it onto his plate. So therefore, he can't put it back. But by the fruits and vegetables, we're saying that he's standing there on Friday and he's saying from tomorrow, I'm going to take it tomorrow, and therefore it's considered kavua for trumah and maaser. Right? But he didn't touch it yet, so why can't he change his mind and decide that he's not going to have it? So Elam Rav Simi Barashi, Rabbi Eliezer Ka'amrit, you're talking about Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer Latamei, Rabbi Eliezer is going to lefi his shita someplace else. The Amar Trumah Kava v'Kol Shekain Shabbos. Right? He holds that Trumah is koveya and Kol Shekain Shabbos. Meaning, let's say somebody took off Trumah already from the vegetables, even if they're not ripe, then he's automatically mechuyev to take off maaser. Meaning this whole issue, this whole thing that we're saying, that maaser you don't have to take off yet, that's assuming that somebody didn't take off Trumah. Once they take off Trumah, then you're mechuyev to take off maaser. And of course, Shabbos is also koveya. The Tanan Peres Shetarman, Peres that you took Trumah off of, actually Nigmar Malachton, before they were ripe. Rabbi Eliezer says it's also lechaman. Arai, it's also to eat from them even temporarily because it's already chayiv in maaser. But the Chacham say it's mutter. Yeah, so that's what the Gemara's teretz is now, is that it's talking about that Trumah was already taken off of it. So Tashema Miseifa. So let's learn from the Seifa. And the Chacham is saying in the Mishna that you have to actually show which fruits you're taking, because the Chum don't hold a brera. The Yomer and say, Mikan vad kan, and he has to say from here to here. From here to here, I'm taking the fruits. Time of Erev Shabbos of Shvius, the Labar Suriyo. The reason why he's allowed to do this on the Erev Shabbos of Shvius is because you don't have to take off maaser during Shemitah. But in the other years of Shemitah cycle, the Bnei Asurim, you know that you have to take off maaser. Asurim, it's also to do this. My time of Lamashum, the Shabbos cover. Why would be also to do it? Meaning, if it's just temporary fruit, so right, why would you have to take off maaser? Elamai, the reason why you have to take off maaser is Shabbos makes all fruits kavua, even if they're not ready. Yeah, so then we're going to answer Loish Shani Osam Kivan Damer Mikan Van Kan Ani Oichel Lamacher Kavala. It's the same Gemara as yesterday. So he says, no, there is different because since he said I'm taking from here and from here, that shows that he's eating it tomorrow. That makes it kavua. So Gemara says, if that's the case, even during the week, if somebody goes over to his silo and says, oh, I'm taking from here and here tomorrow, then that's koveya, even if the fruit's not ready. So what answers the same way to answer before. The tevel is considered muchan for Shabbos, shim over for tiknu, because if you were over and you were masakin it, then it's considered misukun.
Why would
Right?
the Gemara? Why would the
Yeah.
Gemara think that this is a better raya from the Rabbanim than the eliezer himself? Like, what would be the difference? Because you see, the Gemara clearly goes to Shakam Tara and comes out that it's not any more of a raya than eliezer in the beginning.
Yes, I mean, why does the Gemara do this again?
Right? Why is this more medoyik or somehow more mashma like that? That the Gemara goes through this again.
I think the Gemara just wants to do it according to each shita.
Right,
It works
but,
better according to the Rabbanim. Ayin Rashi. Rashi asks the question.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Rashi discusses it, right? But
It
why
works
does it
because
work?
you
you can't be
no,
chayzer. According
Rashi's
to
really
Rabbanim, you can't be
really.
chayzer.
Rashi's really asking that why doesn't the Gemara continue with the next kasha that it asked before,
Right.
which is really the same kasha, right? Because the Rabbanon don't hold of this maaser chayzer thing; they don't hold of the leftovers going back, right? Yeah. Okay. So then the Gemara says, "Uraminu ask us kasha," right? Yeah, that means it's a kasha on Rabbi Eliezer because so if somebody's eating, so now here we need a little bit of akdama. An eshkol is a grape, a cluster of grapes. Grapes back then, I guess now too. I imagine the majority of grapes are for grape juice and wine. No, that are grown in the world. Is that so? No, I have no idea. I would think so, but the Gemara
Vast majority. But it also depends today on the variety of grape.
You mean it's each grape, different types of grapes? I hear.
Change the bracha then.
What?
Wouldn't it change the bracha on grapes?
What, brother?
I don't know if you grow.
No, that's a different thing. That's
Corn?
grapes. You make a butter trigger
You don't make on grapes, you make
on grape juice,
right. So,
but that's not going to change the grapes.
okay.
It's going to change oranges with orange juice, apples with apple juice. It's not going to change the apple; it'll change the juice.
All right.
Okay, whatever. That's a
Okay.
different sugya. But here the Gemara is assuming that most people are doing with grapes for, what do you call it? For wine. So therefore, it's not eating grapes without taking off trumas and maaser would be okay because that's not the final, right? Only once it hits the final, what are we saying? The final stage. That's when you have to take off trumas and maaser. So a guy is picking his grapes in order to make wine, and he has a cluster of grapes, so he can eat as much as he wants without taking off trumas and maaser because it's not kavua. Because he still plans on making it into grape. Once you make it into grape juice or wine, then you have to take off the trumas and maaser.
Garbage.
Well, garbage.
The shell, you're taking the juice out.
No,
Then there's no kedusha.
doesn't have to. It's you don't have to take off trumas and maaser yet, right? Because it's all right. Once you make the wine, then you'd have to. Yeah.
Okay.
So here's this guy. So Ramina has this tira. He's eating a cluster of grapes. And then he goes from the garden into the chatzar. So now we know that once you bring it into the chatzar, that makes it kavua, and now you're mechuyev to take it off. Right? Take off Trumas and maaser. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer says he can finish eating because he holds that a chatzar does not make it required to take out Trumas and maaser unless it's in its completed stage. And since it's not in its completed stage, it's not a problem. Rabbi Shua, he's not allowed to finish it because Rabbi Shua holds that once you bring it to the yard, then it's koveya, even if it's not in its last stage. Shabbos, and that's case number one. Case number two is he's eating his cluster of grapes, and then it hit shkia, now it became Shabbos. So he could finish eating, right? Because he says that Shabbos is not koveya, because it's not in its completed stage. Rabbi Shua says he's not allowed to finish it because Shabbos makes it complete. Whatever it is, so you see here that Rabbi Eliezer holds that Shabbos is not goymer, right? And in our Mishna, we're saying Rabbi Eliezer holds that it is koveya. So we want to answer there. The reason is doesn't mean that you finish the cluster of grapes in the chatzar. Yigmar, Yigmar b'chatzar. Not when, I'm sorry. Back up, I apologize. It's not the way we said Rabbi Eliezer said he finishes it. B'chatzar Yigmar. You can't finish it in the chatzar. That's not what Rabbi Eliezer meant. Go out of the chatzar and finish it. Meaning you can't eat the cluster of grapes in the chatzar, right? Because you have to take it back out, and then it loses its kavua. But like Rabbi Eliezer Yigmar, and not when Rabbi Eliezer says it's Yigmar b'Shabbos Yigmar, does he mean to finish it on Shabbos? Ela mamtin l'motzei Shabbos Yigmar. Wait till motzei Shabbos, and then you'll finish it, right? So, which is a big chiddush now, because basically what he's saying is that on Shabbos it's koveya to take out Trumas and maaser. Once Shabbos is over, it goes back to its original state, right? Which is l'chayra, big leniency. Yeah. So okay, fine. So Kiyasa Ravin.
Wait, why would it do that?
Why would it do that?
It's the achila on Shabbos that is koveya. You're saying you can't eat it on Shabbos.
No, it's Shabbos that's koveya.
Yeah,
Shabbos is koveya. So you're not allowed to eat it on Shabbos.
Right. So then it's not koveya. There's nothing to be koveya on if he's not eating it.
It's koveya for Shabbos.
That means if he eats it, it becomes kavua.
Right. So Rashi, so the kasha is stronger. In the Gemara, what did the Gemara say yesterday's daf? That if the kids put away their fruits, right, and then they lost it, and they didn't take off Trumas and maaser, and then they didn't lose it. They forgot to take off Trumas and maaser. Motzei Shabbos, they had to take off Trumas and maaser. Right? What do you mean? According to what the Gemara just said, you don't have to take it off on Motzei Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos, it goes back to its original state. Right? So Rashi says that it depends if you plan on being meyachid it for Shabbos, then it retains its status. But if it's stam food that you didn't have in mind for Shabbos, so then that's if you decide to eat it on Shabbos, you'll have a problem. But Motzei Shabbos, it goes back to its regular status. Right? That's the way Rashi says it. Right? Yeah. All right. When the Taisus sort of says the same. Taisus has the same kasha, and he says basically the same terror. So it's there by the kids. It's talking about where you mayachid the food for Shabbos. If you mayachid the food for Shabbos, then it stays. The chi of maaser stays on it even after Shabbos. But if you're not miyachid the food for Shabbos, then it doesn't. Okay, so now the Gemara. Ki also Ravin. Yeah, 6 lines up from the bottom. Ki also Ravin Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Echad Shabbos ve'echad Trumah ve'echad Chatzar ve'echad Mekach Kulon ein Koivin ela b'davar shenigmar malachta. So Shabbos Trumah, meaning if the fruits are not done yet, they're not ripe yet. If even so, Shabbos makes it chayiv and maaser. If a person takes off Trumah, like we saw before, it's chayiv and maaser. Chotzer, if you bring it into the chotzer, is mechayev maaser, and if you sell it, ve'echad mekach kulon ein koven ella bedavar shenigmar melachtan. They're only koveya with something it's ripe. If it's not ripe, it's not going to be koveya. Okay, so what is he saying? What's the chiddush here? So Shabbos, the Gemara goes through all four now. What he's coming to say as opposed to who? So Shabbos lafugim the Hillel. Shabbos is coming to exclude Hillel, the Tanya. Hama'amr peres memakom lemakom. If somebody gathers fruits from one place to another place, eliezer, in order to put it out, meaning he gathers up all his fruits and then he puts it out to dry. So which means it's not in its final state. And then it became Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda Hillel la'atzmai eliezer. Hillel himself asers it, right? But that's mashma that everybody else did not aser it because it's not in its final stage. Yeah, which Rashi says Hillel levade eliezer mashma the chol doirei chalukan alav. His whole generation disagreed with him. So that's what Ravin B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan is coming to tell us. Not like Hillel. Yeah. Fine. Then on to Amid now. Chotzer, what's the case of Chotzer? Lafukim with Rabbi Yaakov is coming to exclude Rabbi Yaakov. If somebody puts figs out in his yard in order for it to make dried figs, his kids and his bnei bayis can eat from it temporarily. Right? And this is talking about where he put it out in his chotzer. The Tani Allah Rav Yaakov Mechayev, and Rabbi Yaakov says Mechayev. Rabbi Yehuda Paiter. Rabbi Yehuda says it's Paiter. So Rabbi Yochanan is coming to say the halacha is not like Rabbi Yaakov, and if you put out fruits to dry, it's not considered its final stage, and therefore you're Paiter from Trumah and maaser. Trumah, if you took Trumah, lafukim de Rabbi Eliezer, to exclude Rabbi Eliezer, what we saw on Amar Aleph, the Tanan, Perish, Tarman. Paris that you took off Trumah, if you took off the Trumah before it was ripe, Nigmar Malachtan, right, again means when the malacha is done, but it means when the fruits get ripe. Eliezer says it's also to eat arai, and the Chachamim say it's mutter. Yeah? Mekach. What's the case of Mekach? Kedetnan or Kedetanya. Let's say somebody takes figs from an Haaretz. Now we know that Haaretzim sometimes are not too makbid on maaser. Trumas, yeah, maaser not, which we call demai. Right? The question is, do you have to take it off of them again? Meaning it's a suffix. Demai is a suffix. So if you take dried figs from an Haaretz, b'makom sheroi b'nei adam darsin, if it's a place that most of the people make dried, what do you call it? They dry their figs. So oichel mehen arai, and darsin means they squeeze them, not squeeze it. What's the word? They step on it. It really means to step on it, but it means to press them. Yeah. So oichel, but here's to dry them. Either oichel mehen arai, you're allowed to eat from them temporarily. Maaser demai, and if you're going to take off maaser, it's going to be demai, right? Which Rashi says. Because it must be demai, because we're mesupik whether these Haaretzim take off maaser or not. Shmami no tla. So we hear from this thing three things. Shmami no mekach eno kevas ela b'davar shenigmar melachta. Mekach is only koveya when it's nigmar melachta, because here we're talking about where you bought it, because halikeach, it's somewhere where you bought it, yet you don't have to take off maaser because you plan on drying them out. And we hear from this that the majority of Haaretzim do take off maaser, right? Because we're saying that it's demai, right? If the majority of Haaretzim took off maaser, did not take off maaser, then it wouldn't be called demai. It would be called taking off maaser. Elamai, it must be that the majority do take off maaser, and we just want you to take it off, again for demai, just in case you happen to have bought from an Haaretz who doesn't take off. And we know the third thing is that we do demai from Haaretz, even if it's something whose malacha is not done yet, meaning it's not in its finished state, you still take off. And this comes to exclude me. This that we learned in the Mishna, if somebody swaps fruit with his friend, right? So meaning is that called a mekach or not? So Rashi says amachli means hainu mekach, right? So zeh lechol v'zeh lechol. Each one is just swapping because they both plan on eating it. Zeh liktzos v'zeh liktzos, or one puts it out to dry and the other one's putting it out to dry. Zeh lechol v'zeh liktzos, or one is going to eat the fruits and the other one's going to put it out to dry. Chayev, they are chayev because that's considered like a mekach. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lechol chayev, to eat the chayev, liktzos potter, but liktzos is potter because it's not in its final stage. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan goes with Rabbi Yehuda, and not like the Tanakama. So those are the four, again, just to chazer over, the four things that Rabbi Yochanan is saying is that are koveya for maaser, but only if it's in its finished stage. Is Trumah, Shabbos, Chotzer, and Mekach. Okay. Hadran Alocha maybe. I don't know if Peretz, wherever he is can make a l'chaim now or not, but whatever. Yeah, double l'chaim because we'll cover Rosh Chodesh.
I'll do it in his name. I'll take one for the team.
That's not tzaddik, because that's tzaddik. All right, so yeah, double one. Yeah, fine. Okay, Zoktin Mishna. Yeah, now that was the hard part of the daf. The next part of the daf is pretty easy. Mashilin Paris derech aruba v'yom. So basically, we've been talking about drying out fruit. So you put dried out fruit on top of your roof. So Mashilin Paris derech aruba v'yom. You could lower Paris through a skylight on Yom Tov, and it's not considered too much work. So let's say, I'm sorry, I left out a major piece here. So it's drying on the roof, and then it starts raining. So now you're going to ruin all your dried fruit. So you want to take it and bring it inside, drop it down through the roof. Problem is that's a lot of work, which the Gemara is going to discuss. Like how many can you do? But the Gemara is saying, but on Yom Tov, you're allowed to drop the fruit through the roof, avaloi b'Shabbos, but you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos, right? As they were more machmer. Meaning these are both issues of tircha, of working too hard. So on Yom Tov, they said it's okay. Shabbos, it's not okay. Mechasim peres b'kelim mipnei hadelef, and you're allowed to cover over the fruits with clothing because of the rain, right? Or inside the house. Meaning, if you had your dried fruit and now it's raining on it, so another option is to cover it over with clothing, and that's also okay, right? The Shilas doesn't differentiate between Shabbos and Yom Tov. Right, so that's the question. Does that mean that it's okay? Okay, so that's a Shilah. If you have a barrel or pitchers of wine and oil, you can also cover them over with clothing. And you're allowed to put a kli under a drip on Shabbos.
Yaakov.
Yeah.
If we're worried about tircha, how come there's so many cases where they'll let you do something k'le'achayad or with a shinui?
I mean, you have to do it with a shinui.
Yeah, which is more tircha than doing it regular.
Right. I hear. Yeah, I wish I had that claw.
Okay.
If I got that, if I would get that claw, I would sit down and mamish eat every one of those salamis and hot dogs in one shot. Right? But the only thing I could think with this is maybe here we're talking about mamish physical exertion. There we're talking about cook it a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we're talking about like taking cases of dried fruit. Maybe, but I'm not sure. So here, the practical application of this last case in the Mishna is putting a kli under the dripping water is like you have an air conditioner that's leaking, right? So now that water, can you put a pot under that water to catch it on Shabbos and Yom Tov? Or is that water muksa because it's noilad? It wasn't in existence before, right? If you go like Ramesha holds that snow is muksa because it was created on Shabbos, right? So this air is also created on Shabbos. The air conditioner creates this liquid. So okay, whatever it is. Well, we'll see. We'll see in the Gemara.
If it's still before Shabbos,
and for sure it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clothing, you have a lot of we had this morning with also clothing, washing your hands.
Right, here we're not washing. Here you're just covering the fruits with clothing. You're moving something. It's because it's muksa. The fruits are muksa, right? I'm sorry, no, that's a different issue. I mixed up the issues. No, this is just a tircha issue. Is it a big tircha to go schlep tarps to cover over your fruits? Okay, so Zog the Gemara, Itmar, Rabbi Yehuda Rav Nosson, Chatoni Mashilin v'Chatoni Mashchilin. See, our Gerson, our Mishna is Mashilin, but some had the word Mashchilin, right? So Amar Marzutru, Mandatoni Mashilin loy mishtavish, or Mandatoni Mashchilin loy mishtavish. The one who says Mashilin is not messed up, it's not something wrong with his Messiah of how to say it, and the one that says Mashchilin is loy mishtavish, which I always find interesting when the Gemara says this. Isn't that such a saying it like it's not mishtavish? Why don't we just say that he could be right? It sounds like almost like the Gemara doesn't want to say they're right. They're just saying that it's not a mistake. Right? Is that because the Gemara Taka doesn't know which one is the right one? But you can't say that each one is wrong either, like it's somewhere in the middle?
Isn't that like the Shvuah Shnai Moichzim? The double negative. We can't say they're both correct, because only one of them was originally correct. You can say neither one is incorrect.
Right, so that must be what it is, right? You can't say that they're both right. Although maybe they are both right. I don't know.
Why not? Why not?
Because it's not like it's what's the right terminology?
Why isn't there a tie? Why can't there be a tie? I don't know the bubbers too well, but why can't there be a tie? Go to the videotape and there was a tie. No.
What, between Rebbe and himself? Oh, you mean by Shleim Oichsen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but that's why we say it that way. But you can't make the shvuas a steer there. Here, Rebbe was the one who said this. He either said Mashilin or Mashchilin.
Right. Or maybe he said one time Mashilin and one time Mashchilin.
Now, one would be the Mishnah, one would be a Bryce. But in the Mishnah, it was one way.
I hear. Okay, anyway, so Mandatali Mashilin Lei Mishtavish Tichsiv, the one that says Mashilin didn't make a mistake, because it says, and now we're going to bring Psukim, right? Ki yishal zeh secha. When your olives will fall down. So you see that the word Mashilin is falling down. Mandatali Mashchilin Lei Mishtavish, the one that says Mashilin is not mistaken either. The Tanan, Hashachel va'kosel, the Shachel and the Kosel. What is that? So Shachel is shenishmata yirechai, that its hip became nishmat from the word shmit, that slipped out. He had a slipped, not a disc, but a slipped hip. Yeah. And kosel is she'echad miyakosel kavua micharet. The one hip is higher than the other. Yeah. So you see that shachel, the word shachel can mean lower, right? Or that it falls out. Fine. So he has three lashonos. So basically, there's 5 options for the first word in this Mishnah here. Mandatari mashirin loy mishtavish is not mistaken. The Tan Rabbi Shmuel loymer nazir lo yochef roshei ba'adama. A nazir should not scrub his head with dirt, right? Because we're afraid he's going to pull out hair. Mepnei shemeisher is a sayer because he's going to pull out his hair. So you see that it has to do with something coming out. Mandatari mashirin loy mishtavish the Tan hashacher v'hazug shel saparim, that the shacher is a razor, not a razor blade, and a scissors of a barber. Afapi shenechleku tamein, even though they got separated, they're still tamei. Meaning that's a whole different thing, which is meaning how do you look at a scissors? It's a scissor, right? We know that a utensil, when it breaks, so it loses its tumah status, right? So what happens when they detach, or the handle of a shaver comes off? So is that considered like 2 different utensils, or is it considered one utensil? So since they could be used separately, so it's considered still like a whole utensil. You'd have to actually break one of the blades in order for it to lose its tumah status, whatever it is. But you see that the lashon of mashchirin, right, from the word shacher, right, we can use that as what do you call it? It's what do you call it? It's a shacher is small. It's not a regular size scissors. Mandatani menashirin lemishtavish. The one that says menashirin is not mishtavish. The Tan Misha Nashrukela b'mayim mahalakim. Somebody who's clothing fell in the water, he's allowed to go, right? This has to do with the morning taka, what we're learning in the morning. And we're not chayshish that he laundered his clothing. Means somebody who got soaking wet doesn't have to take off his clothing because people are going to think that he did laundry. Inami, or a different shot, mehadetnan, hezu katan, hezu leket. I'm sorry, what's considered leket? Right? Leket is when the person's going around his field and he gathers up some grain and then some of it drops. So then that goes to the aniyim. So what is leket? Hanoisher b'shal katsira. Anything that falls by katsira. So you see the lashon noisher also works. Okay, so basically we have 5 ways of things working in this Mishnah. Fine. Tanan mashilin peres derech haruv v'yom. So now we get into the halacha. So you're allowed to lower peres through the skylight on Yom Tov. Ad kama. How many peres can you do? There's got to be a limit. Right, let's say you have a whole warehouse that has to be cleared out. Right, that's on top of the roof. That means you can move the entire warehouse. So Amar Rav Zera, Amar Rav Asi,
why not? Why not?
It's got to be too much tircha. It's too much tircha. You're right, though, but it's very vague. When do we call it tircha? When do we call it tircha yisera? The Gemara is assuming here that there's going to be tircha yisera.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, what are you saying?
He can have Kanara 10 sons, so it's not a big tircha.
Oh, you mean why don't we cheshbon how many different people there are too?
Yeah,
I hear. That's an interesting point. Do we look at Klal Yisrael altogether as a tircha, or do we look at each individual? I hear.
I mean, maybe the odd
commas
per person.
You think so?
Right? It's per person. I don't know. Is it? I didn't.
Isn't that the raya from the next Mishnah?
What do you mean?
We had this in Shabbos.
In Shabbos, correct.
There it said each person there could take arba v'chamish kupas. That was the Gemara.
Wasn't it a Machlokes there?
I think so, but I think we came out the maaser that each person could.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see the Gemara. So the Gemara is saying, Ad kama, how much are you allowed to do? So Amar Rav Zera, Amar Rav Asi, Amri Lo, Amar Rav Asi, Amar Rav Yochanan, the same way we learned it in Shabbos. Yeah, where me and Naftali are in a submarine. Yeah. Because of Shanino, this that we learned in Shabbos. You're allowed to move 4 and 5 boxes of tevin, meaning you have a warehouse or a storage house and you want to use it for people. So you're allowed to move up to 4 or 5 boxes of tevin. The Gemara there discusses why it says 4 or 5. What does it mean? That's depending on the size, right? V'shel tvua, that's one shot. In Shabbos, yeah. V'shel tvua, you can move either of tevin and tvua because of archim b'nei bittul bes medrash, and also because of bittul bes medrash, right? Meaning if they needed the place, yeah. So there it's 4 or 5 boxes. So l'chayra here too, you can only move up to 4 or 5, I guess, boxes of the dried fruit. So Gemara says, no, who says you can compare the 2 cases? There, the reason why we say 4 or 5 is because we need the room for the besmerish. Here, there's no bittul besmerish. So we're not going to just let you schlep all your dried fruit. The chamira there, maybe they only allowed 4 or 5 because it was Shabbos. That's more strict than Yom Tov. But you're not going to come to be mezalzel Shabbos because you're schlepping boxes. Yom Tov, the kavua but Yom Tov, that in people's eyes is more makel because you could cook and you can do all sorts of boirer and you could do whatever, all these things. So klal loy, maybe you shouldn't be able to move any boxes because it's going to be a design for Yom Tov. That's one way of trying to ask on the comparison. Or they say the other direction. Time of the leka hefsid moment. There, by Shabbos, there's no loss. You're just moving it because you need the space or you need the hay. But here, with this hefsid moment, afilu tuvanami, you could move even more than 4 or 5 boxes. On Tamid Aleph, Hasam Tanan.
Why does hefsid moment play a role?
Why not?
Because we don't want, because the Torah is chasam b'mayna shel Yisrael.
What, Yontif? We care about Yontif?
We care about the guilt of Eden, yeah.
On Yontif, I mean on Yontif.
Always, her always cares about guilt of
So
Eden.
a lot to be over if the money's in the way.
No, you can't be over on the surah, but there's no isser that you're being over here. All you're doing is schlepping. The shaila is it a bezayin for Shabbos or Yom Tov to be schlepping that much? That's the shaila.
It's technically Sarah. We
yeah.
I'm saying.
The Rabbanan waive it. Rashi says the Rabbanan waive the terech yisera.
Because of the hefsid.
Correct. But
yeah.
Because of the hefsid or because of the
hefsid mammon. It's Rashi in the Mishna.
Yeah, but that's right, exactly. Otherwise, what would be the shaila here? I mean, it's a shaila. It's no isser. It's no malach. Again, it's a terech yisera thing, right?
Zev, the last line in the Rashi on Amid Beis.
I see that.
Last line in the Rashi.
I see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I thought maybe to finish to the two dots because it's all the same Gemara here. It's the same study back and forth. Okay. You know what? I guess we'll stop here. Okay. Fine. A good night, everybody. A good chodesh. Good chodesh. Enjoy. All right, Rav. Now it's really going to be a good chodesh for me. Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. You got to hang it up now because it's phone.
Thank you.
Good chodesh. Good chodesh. It's fun how they are.